Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. We're back with the Ted Show, the home team of Freedom Mortgage Series, this time with the one and only Lara Ertwine. Hey Lara, how are you?
Hi, Ted. I'm doing good.
Good. Welcome to the show. Excited to have you
Thank
on.
you.
I usually don't read a lot of information or do any prep work, but since we had not met, I thought it would probably be a good idea for me to at least know a little bit about you,
Cool.
because so that I can ask some questions. But you have a phenomenal background.
Ah,
Let's let my audience know about that. Give us a little bit of your origin story.
my background. So, I live in Philadelphia. Originally, grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Lancaster.
So, right in farm country, and was a farm girl. Had horses and everything.
Nice.
And came to the city to go to art school. I went to the University of the Arts and graduated there with a degree in illustration.
Like
Um,
hand illustration?
Yeah, like canvas. I was a painter, so I painted with oil paints, and I had this idea that I wanted to graduate and illustrate children's books or something within that medium. Um, and
So when you graduate, what does that look like? Were you
uh,
working like, well, that industry's hard. I mean, anything in the arts is hard.
Super
Um,
hard.
so what were did you do any internship? Like, I'm always fascinated by artists that go into different businesses. Like, real
Mhm.
estate and art seem different sides of the brain. So if you've got
Right.
it, I can't even draw
Sort of,
a stick
yes.
figure.
Yeah,
So
I mean, so I had the unfortunate situation where the year that I graduated, the next year, they switched everything over to digital. And so, like, everybody from after I graduated was learning digitally and, how to illustrate with like Illustrator and Photoshop. And that was how everything was switching.
oh yeah.
And so I was like, what? Like everything that I've learned, what was I going to do? Go back to school and kind of like relearn all these programs. And so, after graduating, I ended up going into like scenic and set design. I did like large backdrops for TV, film, commercials. Um, and then and that was just like, I was just freelancing doing that. But,
Or you liked it?
yeah,
It's something you thought you wanted to.
I enjoyed it. I definitely did. I was like still working with paint, and I was doing some murals around the city and for corporate type murals. And I did enjoy it, and that kind of led me into opening up or starting my own business where I worked with an interior designer and would work on large homes that most of them were being redone, and it was the designer who had like, it was like very, very high end stuff that I was working on. Sometimes, it was like kids' rooms that they wanted a mural done in and stuff like that. So I did some, home interior painting, and I had my own company. It was definitely a lot of manual work. It was like I would come home and I'd be completely covered in paint, like head to
Doesn't
toe.
your hand hurt?
Yes, it was like, I was there like, sanding and like spackling, and it was definitely very physical, um, which I don't mind, but
Well, it depends
it
on
was a
the
lot of work.
trade-off, right? If you're working
Yeah.
14 hours a day and your business is going crazy, if you get to the point where you can have somebody help you, but that must be hard. Let me ask you, you're the artist with the artist eye. Can you even hire people to do work?
Sort of. I mean, I was hiring very artistic people who, so it was a small team. It was only me and like two other people, but, and I did enjoy it. But I actually randomly a friend of mine and I had known some people that were like musicians in Philadelphia. And so like, I kind of knew some people that were in the music business, and randomly, I get a phone call out of the blue, and a friend of mine who happened to be on tour with Snoop Dogg called me. Yeah. And he said, hey, I'm going to be in town, and I'm only in town for like a day or two. He's like, but would you like to come down and work with me? And I was like, of course. Like, yes, that sounds like a really awesome day. And I get
in what capacity? In what capacity?
He was their tour manager at the time. And so he was like on tour with them, and he was like, it's going to be easy. It's just a bunch of like paperwork. And he's like, I'll just ask you to make copies and just do this and do that. And so I jumped on the opportunity. I was like, sure, that sounds great. I showed up really super early in the morning, and it was so much fun. I had a great time. I was backstage all day. Snoop Dogg ended up talking to me in the hallway. I was like, that's cool. And, you know, it's like you're there at, 7 or 8 a.m. and you work, you're the first one in, the last one to leave. So it's a really long day, like 7 a.m. to like 1 or 1 a.m. basically.
You're pretty much helping keep together the entire production.
Yeah. So, the production end of it. So you're there. I was kind of like the liaison between the touring group and then the building and the local people. And just to kind of like help organize things, help day of event things, organize dressing rooms, help with catering, lots of paperwork, sometimes tickets, sometimes like the VIP access type stuff. And but anyway, so when that happened, it just kind of like opened up this entire new world for me. And I was like, wow, this could be something that could be really interesting. I don't have to be dirty. Like, I don't have to and I get to hear like really great music, and to get to meet like a ton of really interesting people. And so I kind of was on the call list then moving forward. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And that was like 10 years of my life.
all for Snoop, or did you?
No, sorry. So I started, then that was like with Electric Factory Concerts, whom was a big promoter here in the city for many years. And Live Nation then ended up buying them out. And so it was then Live Nation, which I'm sure many people know that name. So, it was, some days or some weeks were super busy. We have a season where, you have your really busy season, and then you have your slow season in the wintertime. In the summer, it's like lots of festivals and, big outdoor events. And so, yeah, it was definitely.
So did you have a company then? Or were you just doing it freelance?
It's freelance. Yeah, it was like freelance work. But
so why leave the glamour of all of that and transition over to real estate?
Yeah. So I purchased my first property in like 2003. I think it was 2003. And in a neighborhood that had not yet been in transition. It's like a part of Fishtown. And when I bought there, I instantly loved just like real estate, and I was like so obsessed with it. So then I bought another property, a rental property, bought another property, another investment property. And going through that, everybody and a lot of my friends were younger, and, I was like one of the first people that had bought a house within my social circle. And so everybody just kind of kept coming to me and asking me for advice. So I'm like, well, how did you do it? How did you get the money? Where do you see the next investment? Like, how did you do this renovation? And so just naturally, I was like giving advice away, and I was just helping a lot of my friends, like, with ideas of like how to go about purchasing and talking to a lender or the title person, and I was doing that so much that people kept telling me like, you're really good at it. You should get your realtor license. And I was like, I've never thought about that. And it actually kind of came about more of, not that I wanted to do it as a career, but that I wanted to get into it so that I knew where the next investment was coming from. I could kind of like be on top of everything and then kind of be building my empire, so to speak. Building my own portfolio.
It's good to be educated on it. Yeah, yes. A lot of realtors got in because they were investors. They had, and they wanted to know more about the process. Of course, you sometimes think that the process is super easy when you're on the other side, and then you become a realtor, and then that there's a lot more work.
Sure. Well, yeah, by the time that I had finished my school and took the test, it was 2008 and the recession was here. And it was like probably the worst time to get into real estate. And, so I was thankful, I guess, that I still had my backup with Live Nation, where I was still very much involved with doing work in concerts and production, because it was super difficult at that time when I got in, and just people were being foreclosed upon, and it was short sales and foreclosures, and it was really difficult. So
how did you build your business? How did you build it up during that time?
So people that I knew, it definitely took me, I think I did maybe like 3 deals my first year. So, it was maybe 4, but like, it was really difficult, but I just relied on, my network of people that like were, that I was helping out organically, before I had gotten licensed. So I just reached out to them, and, and basically it was also a great opportunity for people that were able to purchase homes to do it then, so there was a lot of opportunity. Unfortunately, a lot of people did lose a lot, but there was still a lot of opportunity. And so, people had to sell. Like, even though maybe it was a short sale, or even though they weren't making any money, they had no equity in the house, people still had to sell. And I was just focused on helping them, do that, and, helping them meet their goals.
So how did you marry the community involvement, the arts? Because they really are, like, real estate's a people business. It's a relationship business. But, when you're a creative, which is what you are, how did you apply that? How did you bring that into the real estate world and your business?
Good. So I think that having the background with my art degree and having the background in art gave me a natural ability to help people when it comes to like staging, when it comes to help them like just naturally, like the aesthetic of the home, helping my builders with their design choices, and kind of just like lending that. I feel like, there is a lot of like design and art in architecture, in homes, in all of that. So I think that that's definitely come in very handy. The community.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So tell me about the community part. You're still active in your community. I think I read you still are. It's not like you gave up the arts completely when you became a real estate agent.
Yeah. So I guess when I first purchased my home, like I said, it was like in a neighborhood that had not gentrified at all. It was a very rough area, and I was young and I was determined to make a difference. And I was like, I see the potential here. I know that this neighborhood's going to be good. I see that it has the ability to just be a really nice neighborhood. So I was super involved. I went and I was like the founding member of my neighborhood organization, and helped. I was an elected official within the neighborhood association, and did that for like 5 years, 5 or 6 years. I can't really remember, but in doing that, we did, neighborhood cleanups, neighborhood beautification, just safety things involving the neighborhoods, neighborhood reach out, helping clean up parks and playgrounds and provide green spaces. And it really gave me it was extremely satisfying, to say the least. And in doing so, a part of what I loved about the neighborhood is that it has such an eclectic and diverse buildings here, that a lot of the buildings were lived in by artists and a lot of art studios. And having a background in art, I wanted a way to help promote these people with their businesses. And also I wanted a way of generating some sort of finances for our neighborhood to help clean the neighborhood up. So I then decided and came up with an idea for an art festival in the area. And it was the first art festival, very small. But since that point, it's grown to be one of the largest festivals in the entire city, as a matter of fact. And and there's like an element with this kinetic sculpture derby and artists, and I mean, it's just great. So it was interesting how this kind of grew. And when I then did become a realtor, I would talk to people and they would say, oh, I was at that festival 3 years ago and that's what made me want to buy there. And now I live in that neighborhood just because of that event that's held there every year.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it really made me feel very good about the whole thing. So it's a really wonderful neighborhood now. It was before, but
wasn't
even
before.
Better now. It was before. It was a great neighborhood before, but it's even better now. So
what are you seeing in the market now? What are you, just people want to know. They always ask, they want me to ask every real estate agent or every real estate professional that comes on, how are you feeling about the market? And you're in a different market than I am. You're in the Philly market.
Yeah.
What are you seeing and what are you feeling and what are you anticipating is going to happen?
Well, I don't think it's not like '08 at all. It's very interesting because I have, on one side, I have a lot of clients who were already working from home or are able to still work from home, are still very much employed, and in some situations are actually making more money now than they were before this happened. Yep. And on the other hand, you have, I have a lot of, the first-time home buyers that are probably struggling a little bit more right now, and are dipping into their savings, to kind of like ride this out. So I think in the long run, I don't think that this should be a huge issue. In the short time, I think it might delay some people. I think that, especially with this year, I think that there are people that absolutely have to move, and they're going to move. They're okay, and they will move. It's the people that were just kind of like on the, kind of in the middle. I think that they'll probably put it off for another year. And since I live in a large urban city, I live in Philadelphia. I have often I'm kind of wondering what people will be looking for in the future. If this is going to change, people are going to want to, move out of the city to have a bigger space or yard, or, if they're going to stay in the city. So I'm not quite sure where that shift is if it's going to happen or if it will, but it'll be interesting to see.
You're still feeling positive.
I am. I'm super positive. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is just going to be a short time in my mind. So
I agree. I think
yeah,
the transition is going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be in phases. Like, I don't think it's all of a sudden going to be gung
no,
ho the minute they open it. But I feel like if we just adhere to the stuff, there'll be more opportunity as we go along. But I feel like
yeah,
there's been a lot of opportunity here, which is what you're talking about. There's people making. I know people making more money that
yeah,
now that they're home than they did when they were not at home or
yeah.
COVID wasn't going on.
Yeah, and we
So
actually, oh,
go
I was
ahead.
just going to say, we actually have a low inventory too. And it wasn't like that. I mean, it was like this moving into COVID is we didn't have a lot of inventory. So I think that depending upon where your market is, like some markets definitely had more inventory than others. So I think that has a large effect to it too.
So tell me what you personally are doing, aside from business, to stay positive, to stay creative. Meditation, maybe art. Tell us what you do.
I'm trying not to watch the news very often.
No doubt.
I am listening to more podcasts. Just like positive podcasts. I'm trying to work out as much as I possibly can. I'm a single mom. I have a daughter at home, so I'm also trying to homeschool her. So that's a little bit challenging at times. But with that, it's also been very interesting because I have taken on TikTok. And so we've had a lot of fun doing some videos and doing like some things with TikTok.
TikTok is a fascinating thing, isn't it?
It is. I'm working on how to figure this out, how it can like help my business.
I think you know what I think that's such a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. As somebody younger
Mm-hmm.
like you, it's good to see you talking about how it could do business, because I think people don't think of it as a potential business marketing tool,
Yeah,
for lack of a better word. And I think that is the wrong kind of thinking. I think that you should think about it. You can still
yeah.
have fun. I mean, I know people that spend hours doing nothing but watching TikTok videos, and
I know.
you know, it's
That's where
fine.
everybody is right now.
I
It
know
totally is like, and it's addicting
it
because they're
is.
short. They're very short videos. They're 15 to 30 seconds or whatever, but
Yeah.
or 60 seconds. But yeah, people's attention span.
Yeah,
I've
my kids have begged me not to get on there. I have an account. They're like, no, that's the end of the world, Dad. But I want to try it. I want to give it
You
a try.
should. You should definitely. It's a lot of fun actually. Which so I love video. I do a lot of video I try to do a lot of video for my marketing, and I feel like it's a very effective form of of advertising, of just reaching different audience, and so we've
So how do people find you on TikTok or anywhere if they're interested in learning more about what you do and how you do it?
I think all my handles have my name in it. So my YouTube is Lara's Guide to Philly. My Instagram is Lara Ertwine Realtor. So yeah, and I think my TikTok is just Lara Ertwine. So
All right. Well, you've been a joy to have on. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm fascinated about the art festival. When is that? Is that in the fall?
Well, it would have been in May, I think May 6th, but obviously it's going to be maybe postponed to the fall.
Well, keep us in the loop on that. We love to promote.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lara, for being on.
Yes.
You were awesome.
It was
All right,
great,
guys.
Ted. Thank you.
See you back at 3. Thank you so much. Reach out to Lara, Philly area, or really anywhere.
Yes.
She could teach you TikTok.
I'll try.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.